before that, I mean, I wasn't like trying to, I wasn't excited necessarily about going, even to the point my wife was like, how come you don't sound excited? Like, you don't seem excited. And it was like, it's not that I'm not excited. It's just that, like, I don't like to be running around doing all kinds of extra stuff if I don't have to, right? I just like to stay focused and stay in, our time is the thing that's one of the most valuable assets we have. And the way we build wealth is by leveraging our assets to the greatest extent. And time is the one. To read the wealthiest people, the way they built their wealth is due to their ability to leverage their time. And so, like, when you think about the Elons and you think about the Buffetts and you think about the Oprahs and you think about the Bezoses, like, they're making millions and millions of dollars every minute. Like, that's how their money flows. So regardless of what they're doing, but money's coming in, money's going out, the money's flowing. But that didn't just happen. It didn't just happen by chance. It's something that they had to build on systems and things like that to make happen. And so I understand that. And so when it comes to like bouncing around and doing different things, I'm not the one. I'd rather not do it. And I always tell you guys the same thing. Like, if you can avoid that so that you can put your time, if you can avoid bouncing around and spending your time doing all these things and striving for the things that you have vision for, then and put your time into the things that will allow you to leverage your time, like get that 10, 20, 30, 100x return on your time and or your money. Then when you get really good at that and you build on it, and then you build on it, and then you build on it, and then you build on it, then eventually there won't be anything really that you have to do. You're only really doing things because you just love to do them. And then the best part about that is you got your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, your great great grandkids, all your descendants are also will be able to benefit off of the effort and the energy and that allowed you to build the thing that God's given you vision to build. And so with that, when it came to like Bible study, like I do Bible study, but I ain't trying to be in all these extra Bible study groups and things like that. But the Lord showed me that as we've been talking about serving with excellence, what's one of the three pillars? One of the three pillars, we got cash flow and freedom, but what's the other one? Or the three C's, I'm sorry. The three C's is cash flow. The second is what? Continuity and collaborations, right? That's the thing, the collaborations. And so when we're talking about the 10X and how to have more people, how to have more listings than you can handle, how to have more bookings than you can handle, and how to have access to more cash than you actually need. Like the collaborations is the big thing, strategic collaborations. And so the Lord really just showed me that, man, maybe I could start a group. I told you that this morning, right? Yeah. Maybe I'll just start a group, start a short-term rental group, because you got people in that space, in the space throughout this area who are interested in or have an interest of some sort in short-term rentals, whether it be travel agents or corporate leasing people who need to put their clients in, or recruiters. And when you have enough of those people that you garner great relationships with, then now that's kind of like a leverage thing. It's like it's win-win. You got what they desire, and they have what you desire, and those things come together, and it just really, really works. And then you just continue to build on that. Well, so I'm thinking, well, why don't I start a group but then like this church that I'm going to, Bayside, like the whole idea I came up with that the Lord gave me vision for serving with excellence, it actually came from Bayside. No one ever said it. It's just what I've been experiencing. And I'm going, man, serving with excellence. Like no one said it. It's not like a quote. It's not like a logo. It's just what the Spirit showed me. serve with excellence, because that's everything they do is at this big, like whether it's big or small, it's just excellent. And I've been praying a lot. How is that happening, Lord? How is it happening? And it's happening because it's the people serving the people. Right. And it's also about, and this is something we talked about, right? We talk about a lot, why we do the cold plunges and all this other stuff. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It ain't like I'm not comfortable being out with people. I did all that stuff all my life, but I've learned to get comfortable not doing all this running around. Where most people are like, how do you stay cooped up in a house for like 6 months without going anywhere? Like, I'm exaggerating, but that's one of the reasons why I have the house out on the water, because like if I'm in the area, if I'm here, like at least I get to enjoy the settings that I'm in, right? And so, strange, I don't know why that's happening. So anyway, so with the Jamaica thing, the trip, and with what as the Lord showed me, well, no, like you don't have to start your own group. This church has many groups of entrepreneurs. Possibly one of them is an entrepreneurial group, a business group.
That's what our group is. Yeah, it's for business leaders, people who've been blessed with a business, so entrepreneurs or co-owners or top executives. But how are you using that business to further the kingdom? And whose feet are you washing? And how are you getting people to win? So how can I get you to win today? You know, how can I get a win for you today? There's a guy, and it's funny that Tim, you say his name is Tim. It'll come to me in a second. But he's a negotiator. He negotiated hostage releases for the FBI for years.
Oh, I got this book. I got his book.
Do you?
Yeah. Keep going. I'll tell you.
Anyway,
if it's the same guy,
it's got to be the same guy. I mean, how many?
It said negotiate. It said
former FBI.
Yeah, go ahead. While you're talking,
anyway. His point is, and when you're talking about what you're likely talking about, you don't need to get to yes. You don't need to drive the point home. You need to get to yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Like I'm being heard. I understand. And what is it that you really need? Well, then they'll ask, maybe not necessarily what you're negotiating on or for, but the true need underneath it. As you learned in the 99 Lies, there's a lie, but then what's the underlying fear underneath it? So there's a request or a wish or a complaint. Why don't you do this? That's a complaint, right? If I just listen to the complaint, well, what's the underlying need? How's that person not being served? How are those feet not being washed underneath that complaint? Is how to listen to people, not just hear their words. There's a song in the Christian world right now. I want to be different, so teach me to listen. I don't want to hear. Teach me to have vision. I don't want to see.
Say that again.
Teach me to listen. I don't want to hear or just hear. And teach me, I don't want to see anymore, but teach me to have vision.
I'm looking for this book. That's good, because I'm looking for this book that you're talking about, and I ordered it some time ago. So interesting. So that's two things today that I don't believe when it comes to God there's coincidences, because you talked about Kairos today.
Yeah, we talked about Kairos.
What is the book?
If you don't know what I mean by Kairos is time, but not in a chronos that is like linear, chronological time. Kairos is biblical kind of time, or in God's time. And God's time, of course, could be, in seconds or in millennia, thousands of years. And it's all the same to God, because God doesn't really, time bends around for God. Soon to God is an interesting concept. That could be 50 generations.
Never split the difference.
Yeah.
Chris Voss.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Voss. VOSS.
VOSS. Yeah.
If you're looking, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's the one.
That's him.
Yeah.
And he mentions that you're not trying to drive toward what you want or what they want. You first have to get to an understanding of why they're there in the first place.
Mm.
You don't have much time for that, but that connection, that human connection, to get to collaboration is first, second, before you actually get to a result. The result is way down the road, and yet people focus on the results. And when you focus on the results, you tend to push. You tend to, not necessarily say the right thing, because you're not focused on connections and understanding the person, and therefore having a collaboration. But his points on YouTube are good about, we negotiate everything every day. We negotiate our way across the street, but it's all about collaboration.
That's good. That's good. Has anybody ever has anyone ever thought about that when it comes to collaborations? Because that's something. And just to give you some background, with John is like, I found this out also today. Like after Bible study, like we stayed outside talking probably for another, how long?
40 minutes. About
40 minutes, and then we all we prayed, a couple of us, he, I, and Ron, right? And Rob. And Rob is a guy, same thing. Like he's his
we're co-leads
in this Bible, this business Bible study group. And Ron does these, what do they call
the smart cards.
So like that's something on our list of things to do. Like we're planning to have, I don't know if I told you guys, but we're planning on, in every Airbnb, we're planning to have like smart cards. So when people check in, they have the ability to just check, click, and see like what we're all about. And instead of wondering, so we got all these Airbnbs all over the country, different parts of the world now. And like people come in and they have no clue, but there's a captive audience of people who desire to be doing the same thing you all are doing, but yet they don't know because we ain't telling them, right? And so, boom, he put that together. But what I found out about John today was that our paths crossed before some way, in some way, shape, or form, because he was in the same place, in the same building that I was in some years ago.
Cleveland, probably in 92.
In the tower, in the tower, right? So I was in the tower. Remember, I told you guys I was doing my management training. And during my management training, I was with the bank at the time, and I was working under all the presidents of the different bank businesses. And at that point, I can't remember which one. It may have been insurance that I was under at the time when I was in Cleveland working on the bank merger between Society and Key. And he was, what were you doing there?
Yeah, I had come from Ameritrust when Ameritrust and Society merged. And then when Society and Key merged, I was in the investment side, getting my CFA and doing, my investment stuff before I ended up doing derivatives. Investments.
Oh, so you were doing, so tell me what you did before because he said derivatives. I don't know if y'all know what derivatives are, but derivatives are this thing when it comes to money, like, it just goes into a whole new world of understanding how money works. But go ahead and just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and with your students, you just said like concentrate wealth and leverage it to build it, because concentration builds and depletes wealth really quickly.
Yes.
Once you have wealth, then diversification and making sure you earn a certain amount with lower risk, that helps you keep wealth. It won't help you build wealth,
right?
But it'll help you keep wealth. And getting entrepreneurs and business owners, when they sell their business, I kind of specialized in where someone sold their business for 40, 50, 60 million bucks, and they want to set up trusts for their kids and have downside legacies and things like that, then actually earning 10 or 12%. This one entrepreneur is like, earn me 10% with no risk. I'm like, I can do that, almost, depending on your definition of no. Like, how much risk? You got to take some risk. But that kind of derivatives will help you do that. And real quick, derivatives is any security that derives its value from some other security. So like if you're talking about a share of Apple, Apple is the share of Apple. There's no derivative there. But if you're looking at a call contract that could allow you to buy a share of Apple, well, then let's say the call contract says you can buy Apple at $100 a share. Is that worth anything? Well, yeah, because Apple's trading at like 300. But if Apple were trading at 30, the ability to buy it at 100 wasn't worth anything. So you have to look at the reference asset at the other price, and that's how a derivative drives itself. It's almost like, if you could, if I was out there on the street handing out coupons to get a free pizza, well, that would be worth whatever the pizza would normally cost, $14, right? But if I said, look, this is worth 50 pizzas above a certain amount, $100. Well, it's still worth an awful lot, right? And those derivative contracts are what people trade back and forth and how they hedge wealth and safeguard wealth. But that's down the road, and it's hard once people realize how easy it is to make wealth in a concentrated way to get them to back off.
Oh yeah, that's hard. That's hard because one of the things we preach, we talk about getting there fast and forever, right? And versus slow and in many cases never, right? When you start off, because that's it's like how society is, right? Society teaches us that the way you do it is you work for us for 40 years. And while you're working for 40 years, you're building up your pension, like you're building up your fund. Maybe you'll end up getting, am I putting you to sleep? And maybe you'll end up getting a pension. Maybe you'll end up getting Social Security. Hopefully you won't need it. But typically in most cases, when you do it that way, in most cases, it's enough maybe for you to live comfortably, but not to really live, in many cases, the lifestyle you truly you desire. And it won't be something, typically, if you did try to live the lifestyle you desired, it wouldn't be something that your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren would be able to live off of too. Right. And so we're taught this, it's kind of like the reverse way, right? And that's, I think it's for a purpose, because if we're taught the other way, like how to really do it, then if we're taught that way, then who's going to be out there working? So like the systems need somebody to be out there working, so that like if I got this multi-million dollar company and or $1 billion company, and if it ain't me working and doing it all, somebody's got to be doing it. And if it ain't, and so that I can enjoy the time with my family and my grandchildren and great grandchildren, and breaking those generational cycles and building generational wealth, somebody's got to be doing it.
For now, until AI. Well, here you go. He's getting ready to go down that rabbit hole, right? So, but yeah, so that's just so you know. I mean, how long were you in that space, John? Too long.
Long time.
Yeah.
You've seen. So he's saying it's hard once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. When you got people in that mode of all right, we're always used to rolling.
Well, you said something, and I'll mention this to the students too. Try to stay uncomfortable, or get comfortable being uncomfortable. Either way, most people don't like to get uncomfortable in the first place, right? And then learning how to stay uncomfortable is a whole nother trick. Because normally you attain a certain amount. All right, I did this, I did that. Now I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but happiness isn't being comfortable.
Right.
Happiness is continuing to grow, especially in a spiritual direction. And spiritual growth requires suffering. And faith. It doesn't take a whole lot of faith to have 2 + 2 = 4.
True.
And it doesn't take a whole lot of faith in my, I'll tattle on myself a little bit to say, I was raising 3 kids and, making sure they were getting through school and doing all this kind of responsible stuff and building the pension plan, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and being an outstanding person, quote, at work. Yeah. But I didn't have any money working necessarily 3 different times in 4 different time zones for me. I didn't have multiple streams. So when the bank made a turn and said, look, we're going to do it this way, and we don't need a few of the top performers. Think about this. We don't need sales. So we'll keep the rotten salespeople because maybe they'll get the sales we need, but we're going to fire all the top performers.
It sounds counterintuitive, right? It's
how does that work?
Yeah.
But as someone who always did well, you suddenly are on the out. And I just think to some degree that's God saying, congratulations on that commission. I have a new assignment for you, and it's time for something new. But it takes some perseverance to say, wait a second, let me just go back to what I knew. Well, that's comfortable, but it's not necessarily profitable.
Yeah. Interesting. So there's a couple of things he said in that, and one thing one thing I don't want to miss going back to was when he talked about developing the collaborations and how to best do that. But then before we do that, he also just talked about, again, being comfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, learning how to be comfortable, being uncomfortable. And like he said, when it was counterintuitive, because you would think, I'm doing really well, I make the bank a lot of money, so I'm not going to be the one to go. And the bank said, well, yeah, you are, because we have a different plan. And it doesn't make sense, but I got tapped on the shoulder, right? And they gave me a little wake-up call. But thankfully, the bank job that I had, it was the job of my dream, but it wasn't my dream. And when they tapped me on the shoulder and started playing with my bonus and made me start jumping through hoops, I was like, oh, wait, I'm doing these 5-star lunches and dinners with all my clients. I'm playing golf and on the best country clubs in the world, and having we do all these amazing things, but this is not on your dollar. This ain't on your dime. This is on the bank's dime. And they still control my destiny. And so when they woke me up by tapping me on the shoulder and making me jump through these hoops to get the bonus that I had already earned because they made some changes in their plan, I vowed that this would not happen again, ever. And for me, because it wasn't my dream, it was my dream job, but not my dream, it was not difficult for me to go back to what I was there for in the first place, right? And I went back to real estate, and I utilized that platform to go and start building back on my real estate. A year later, I'd made over $300,000 on the side with my real estate. I signed my letter of resignation and I was out. And then a couple of years later, I was making my first $1 million a year in real estate. So I had gotten comfortable being comfortable, right? I remember driving to work in the morning, headed downtown in traffic, and I would look to my right and I would see this guy that would have to be probably 20 or 30 years my senior. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, please don't let me be me. Let that be me. Right? So I had gotten comfortable being uncomfortable the wrong way. I was uncomfortable being in that space at one point where I would be locked behind a desk forever doing someone else's work. And then I had gotten comfortable doing that. until they tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, you better wake up. That was my wake up call. And so it was a little different.
Well, you can praise God that wake up call came 20 years ago.
I praise God.
Instead of, I was a high performer for 23 years. And then the wake up call, thanks for playing.
Yeah. Thanks for playing.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah.
And what do you get? You get a pension.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what?
Which isn't bad, but it's not.
Yeah. He got his little golden parachute to a certain degree. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing, like it's kind of like the analogy when I started flying or taking flying lessons back in the day. And it made me realize, like after I was taking them, how when we're on a commercial jetliner, like we feel real comfortable and safe, right? And I use this analogy with me, like financially, like with work and things. And by the way, I'm not telling anybody to go quit their job. Y'all know I don't tell y'all to do that, right? Don't go quit your job. Let the Lord tell you when it's time to do that. But the analogy is if there's anything that ever, like you think you're safer on those planes than if I was flying myself. Well, when I'm flying myself, one of the scariest things when you first learn to fly, for me anyway, was taking off. Like taking off, because as soon as, like, once you rolling down that landing strip, you get up to about 100 miles. Do you fly?
I've been in small planes.
Okay, so you get up to about 100 miles an hour. You're pulling back. Like there's no turning around. Like you gotta fully commit, and then once you get lift off, you can feel it drop, and then like there's no turning back. And then the other is landing. Right? Once you get up there, it's just like it's cool, But those are the two times. And but you realize that if there's anything that goes wrong, instantaneously what's going on. Like you can make the corrections but in a commercial airliner, if something go wrong, guess who's gonna be the last person to know? You. Why? Because the pilot's in control and he's doing his thing. And then if there's nothing he can do, now he's telling us, okay, we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So it's kind of like the job, where a lot of people look at that as the safety net. And look at Ron. It's the safety net. I mean, Ron, look at John. It's the safety net where I'm performing. Like, ain't no way they're going to tell me, like, as much money as I'm making the organization, there's no way they could tell me I'm out. And then they have a difference in direction of where they're taking the organization. And you're the last person to find out, right? You don't know, because they're not making decisions to serve you.
Right. And one thing that you said that might help everyone on the line too is, I felt as if we were in control of our division. I had leadership. I had autonomy. I had authority. I felt like I was running our business, a small business, but I didn't own the business.
Didn't own it.
And I didn't make the call to shut it down or radically change it. In fact, I wasn't even on board. I wasn't included in the decision, which came as a real shock. So when you said you never wanted to have that happen again, don't basically have control of, what you're building that's important.
That's good. That's good. So back to this other thing, when you talk about collaborations and strategic collaborations, what you said is profound. I mean, you got it out of the book, but it's profound. You said it's about it. It's not about and I'm going to paraphrase. You said it's not about the goal, right, or the outcome. It's not about thinking about the outcome first, but learning.
Well, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
It's one of my top 3 things that are my goals for the year, and my goals and aspirations for the year I have to translate into my calendar and what I'm doing on a weekly and daily basis. And one of the things that I want to do on a daily basis is help another person. Another thing that I want to do on a daily basis is spend some time in the Word. Another thing I want to do on a daily basis is know that I'm making progress reaching my goal of financial independence. Now, those are then my top 3 goals for the year would be an X amount on my road to financial independence, number of places where I'm serving, as far as church, Rotary Club, this, that, my business, how many people am I serving? So your top goals has to basically translate into your calendar. Here's the soundbite. You show me your wallet and where you spend your money, and your calendar and where you spend your time. Effort is time and dollars, so ETA, effort, time, attention. Your effort, time, attention shows up in your calendar. If you got this lofty goal to, I don't know, run a marathon, and I look at your calendar and you don't have any time that you're running, and I look at your bank account and you haven't bought any track shoes, how are you doing on your goal? Probably not all that well. Now it's just a dream. It's not a goal.
It's just a dream.
I'll run a marathon one day. Okay. Well, how often do you run a week? In the past 7 months, how many shoes have you worn out? Right. I just ran an 8K a little while ago, and I was going to run a 5K, which is no big deal. It's 3 miles. Well, plans changed and we couldn't do it that day on a Saturday, so we had to do it after church on a Sunday. Well, the only run on the Sunday was the 8K or the half marathon. Luckily for me, the half marathon was in the morning and all the way through the afternoon. Right. And we needed to do church, right? So in the afternoon, it was time to run an 8K, which is 5 miles. It's a 5-mile run.
Right.
That's
a good run.
Yeah.
It's a good run.
It
ain't no half marathon, but
it ain't no half marathon. No. On the other hand, it didn't take me, more than 4 or 5 weeks of changing my routine, running, half an hour more than I normally would, a couple times here or there. And over the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks, it didn't take much to actually do the 8K. But, if it had been a half marathon or a marathon, it would have taken more investment, more time.
Big time.
And I would have had more patience toward that goal. And I'd have to have more weeks to say, how am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? Because the result is further down the road.
So as you use that as the example in collaborations, tell me how that is the example in collaborations when you're getting to know.
I think the bigger the task, the more important it is to put in milestones so you're on track, and to basically have people around you and with you supporting you in that goal. So again, I would have had to probably ask for additional help, and those with children, you got to count on your other parent to say, hey, could you watch the kids? I got another extra half an hour per day or every other day that I want to do this training, because that's
okay. So yesterday, if you guys didn't watch, if you did, you may have seen my Millionaire Mindset talk that I did yesterday at 6. We do it every Thursday, and I talked about the one thing that if you make this mistake, you could lose it all. And I talked about focus, right? And the things that affect focus, either positively or negatively. And the 2 things that affect focus positively or negatively is fear and friends, right? So he's talking about friends. And so you go in and watch that if you haven't, because he's talking about that type of stuff that makes a lot of sense. Now, what I want to do, because I know.
And one point
go
on
ahead,
that.
Go
One
ahead.
point on
Yep,
that.
Go ahead, please.
No, for your flip,
please.
It's a different type of collaboration. But when I say I want to help another person per day,
person per day,
I often heard that to lend courage is to encourage. So when I encourage you, I'm lending you my experience, my strength, my, and I'm trying to bolster you up. If I can lift another person by encouraging them per day, that kind of activity pays dividends, because they will, at a certain time, give me a call and say, you helped me once. And by the way, I just became aware of this opportunity, and you should call this other guy. How did I know about the opportunity? I wouldn't have, except for they thought of me. Why did they think of me? Because I helped them in the past, and I came to mind, only because I'm encouraging. And famous person in the Bible was named Barnabas, the encourager. And I try to be a Barnabas per day, and I try to see that activity comes back around, and as it's said, okay, I did my job. I washed somebody else's feet, and
it reminds me of the greatest commandment. And so what is the greatest commandment? The greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, soul, with all your strength. But he didn't stop there. He said, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And to me, that's what that reminds me of, because if we're seeking to serve, right? If we're seeking to serve, we're going to serve as we're helping people. As John said, I want to help someone. Well, everybody out there needs some help. Like everybody, like even me, like I need help. What do I need help with? Well, Lord, how do we have more listings? How can we do something that's just different? That, because you said nothing's missing. How do I provide in our systems a way that allows everyone to have more listings than they can handle? How do I provide everyone to have more bookings than they can handle? And how do I provide so that everyone will have access to more money than they need? Like I know how to do, like I know it's not the things that I know, Lord. You've already showed me what I can do, but it's not what I know, it's what I don't know I don't know. And so that's what I'm looking for. Like I know nothing's missing. The reason why we're able to talk to each other right now, like you guys are right here, is because someone was able to look beyond what they could see. You got the radio waves and the video waves, and they were able to take those things that they couldn't see and use their gifts and their talents, put it together so that now it's a quantum effect. It's just press a button, and some of you are 100 miles away, some of you are thousands of miles away, and it was the same click of a button where it just collapsed time, and now we're able to talk. Right. And that's the same thing where it can happen across the board, where time just collapses. And it isn't about how much time, it's about really where you are in being prepared and ready. Right. Are you here and you just don't think you can? Are you here and you just really trying and hard? Or are you here and you just know that's what God has for you and you walking in that space? It's either now or later, but it's all in the same time. It ain't out here. So that's a whole nother teaching, and we'll get into that another time. But that's how we collapse time. And when we talk about loving your neighbor as you love yourself, we all need help. And if we all need help, then guess what? Someone else needs help. Like you talked about, encouraging. What do I say? Borrow my confidence. Like I can see in many of you, all of you, I've seen certain things that in many cases you weren't able to see in yourselves. And I'm like, you can just follow these steps. You got this. You'll be fine. Coach, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Like you can do it. You'll be all right. I've seen it before. And then, okay, if you believe, and then boom, you guys go out. Now you got all these listings. You're doing all these things. It's like in the beginning, you had some confidence, but you borrowed my confidence. It was encouragement. Well, guess what? If you give that way, that's loving your neighbor. You want to treat people as you desire to be treated, right? How do you, if like that's loving your neighbor? How would you want someone to guide your children? Like that's how, honestly, that's how I look at it. Like everything that I've given you guys is the same stuff that I've done with my kids, right? That's loving your neighbor. And it's to do it without getting anything in return, without expecting anything in return when you do that. Now, it's a little bit different because obviously you can't do that and still, unless you got a not-for-profit business, right? This isn't a charity organization. But once you're in, then the way we give back is serving with excellence in that way. Because every time all the things we're doing, we're not doing them because we're expecting anything in return. The only thing I'm desiring is for you guys to have what, and to be able to do what God's calling you to have and be able to do using at least some of the gifts that he's blessed me with to help you with that. Right? And so, all right, that was good, brother. That was good. So quick question for you. I know you had you had some questions about Airbnb, and as you're a derivatives guy, you're a finance guy. Let me explain to you a little bit about how it works, right? Because I know he's like, I just don't I don't get it. I don't understand how this works. So I said, I'm going to take him over to one of our places too, by the way. We're going to have some lunch after this and take it over. And oh, by the way, John didn't even, I gave him some idea when we talk. I'll probably maybe have a few people on, but I didn't, you guys got the text at the last minute because that's what it was. Like, I like that. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this just to add value. Some of you are going to take something away from this conversation. What's going to happen? Hopefully, when it comes to you looking to build collaborations, because I'm not doing this just for me, I'm doing it for you, but I'm doing it so that you can see how it's done so that I can replicate myself in you. So now all of you are doing the same thing, and we're having more and more of these great conversations with people all over the world, and they're becoming part of what? Our circles. And when those circles come together, how powerful is that? Right? And so that's it. That's how we do it, serving with excellence. Right. And so John, we didn't talk about what we're going to talk about other than I said, we'll talk about Airbnb and then we'll take you by and let's eat and hang out, get to know each other a little bit. That was it. So the way Airbnb works, the way we do it is we lease the places. I think I explained that a little earlier. We lease the places from landlords who know what we're going to be doing for the purposes of hosting people, usually in many cases, business travelers that are coming into town, many cases on business. Sometimes they're just traveling on vacation or holiday, whatever. But in many cases, they're traveling on business. And while they're traveling, it could be professors, it could be nurses, it could be doctors, it could be utility men, it could be bankers, whatever, right? Teachers, whoever. They're coming, they're staying in our place, and then they may stay, instead of staying in a hotel, they're staying in our places. And when they stay in our places, they're, there's no drama. They're here just to handle their business, sleep in a nice place that they can lay their head comfortable, clean, safe, and then they're gone. Right. And then, so that's our model. However, there's a couple little twists to that. The way it works for us is that whatever we're leasing, there's a formula that we have that in order for it to make sense, it has to meet the formula. And the formula is it should be producing anywhere between 2 to 3 times what you're leasing it for. Okay. Right. So that's really the hidden thing inside of that. In order to get to that point, there's certain things that has to happen. You have to optimize the listing properly. You have to operate it properly. And then when that happens, you have the algorithms and those kinds of things that start to kick in, that where you're not having to, market your listings and do all this other stuff. And then Airbnb uses that $1 billion algorithm to send your listings out to people all over the world, well more than they send it out to others, because you understand how to play the game that they want to play, which is they have a user-friendly algorithm that they want everybody on their platform to be happy, right? So that they're going to come back, they're going to refer people instead of going to booking.com or to Verbo and those kinds of things. So when people are happy with your listings, when people are booking more with you, when that means you're satisfying that side of the equation for them, but also you're satisfying the other side of the equation, God bless you, for them as well, which is you're going to be happy because you're making money. So if they're happy, you're making money, then Airbnb's going to be making money, right? So that's how they partner up with you in a sense when you understand that. And that's the key to how it either is a 1.5x, 2x, 3x, right? Yeah. And then like we just keep it simple. From there, it's just about automation so that when it comes to operating, you're just not in the center. So you got systems and tools in the center where you're not having to be the one running around cleaning rooms and changing linen and all that stuff. You have people that do that, and you're able to monitor and manage that from anywhere in the world, right? And in some cases, like in Tony's case or our Airbnb members' case, they don't even have to monitor and manage it because our teams do all of that just like they do for me, right? So that's really like, and my motto is keep it simple. Like, there's a million things you can do out there, but just keep it simple, because then all you got to do is just focus on just continue to grow. You ain't got to do all this other stuff. Just continue to grow. And as you're growing your listings and you're growing your bookings, you're going to be growing your cash flow. And as you're growing your cash flow, you're gaining back even more and more of your time. And then eventually it's just like a firestorm where it just takes a life of its own without you. And now you have the clothes that allow you to be able to do the other things that God's giving you vision.
Cool. Well, you used the analogy of a small plane and taking off.
Yeah.
So I was told a long time ago, to get off the ground, you got to put the throttle at 100%.
Oh yeah, you got to do that.
And if you put the throttle at 75%, just trundle down the road,
playing with danger.
You never get off the ground.
Yeah.
Once you're off the ground and at cruising altitude, what do? You can pull back on the throttle, right? So
that's right.
Being committed to a strategy and actually executing on a plan is what I've heard you say. You're teaching these students how to do that they otherwise wouldn't have the trust, the belief, aka the faith that, hey, if I put the effort in and put the money in, I'm going to get the same kind of return that, was promised.
Well, that part though, you got to be careful, because like the Bible tells us, don't promise, right? Because you ain't God, right? And so that is in the world of, even with derivatives and things like that, like there's things that we control, but there are things that we don't. And so one of the things we don't control is, what about when Airbnb changes their algorithm? I don't control that part. And then how does it affect? You got to be able to make adjustments to affect that. What happens when maybe something happens in an area where, travel is down a little bit or work is down a little bit? So those kinds of things come into play. And that's one of the things that I'm careful. One thing I do promise though, is that if you do the things that we talk about, you will get similar results. You'll get the same results, but those results are based on historically what we've done. Like there's full transparency about what we do and how we do it. So all my students know, and they see behind my portfolio, and they see the ups and downs and how the stuff performs. Like that's it. Like it's not, I'm going to be doing something different, and then I'm having you doing something different and expecting you to get a different result than I'm getting. Like that's why we do it this way. Right. So the promise is, we're gonna, if you do this, then you can expect to get the same or at least similar results. However, when it comes to finance and money and those kinds of things, when it comes to business and investments, the only thing that's promised is that God is in control, and the only thing that's promised is you're gonna, if you stop breathing, you'll die, right? I can't promise that you're gonna make 5 times or 10 times or whatever, but I can promise that if you do it, you will get results that you'll have the ability to build on and get to that point. So,
yep.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but did it?
Yeah,
a little bit. So we'll see. We'll show you some things later. Before we leave, though, because we're gonna wrap up and go, because he's got some other work he's got to get done. Does anyone have any questions for John regarding finance, regarding derivatives, regarding investments, regarding anything, or any questions for me? Does anyone have any questions? Now's the time. No questions? I know I don't. I definitely don't have a shy group. Well, I guess.
People said they're at work.
Oh,
so they're just listening.
Oh, they're in just for listening. I get it. Okay, cool. Got it. So there's a bunch of people on. All right. Well, that being the case, I just wanted to say thanks to John and for coming and hanging out with us. It's all about value and about collaborations, and again showing each other how that's built. Up until this morning, we didn't know each other, but the Lord's doing something, because there's some things just in our prayer together today that He's also revealed. That so with that said, I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and hang out. I see you, brother Stevens. Hopefully this was helpful to everyone, and if it is, you know what I say. If it was helpful, if you're watching this live on YouTube, then subscribe to the channel. Comment. I love to see the comments. But for everyone, if it was helpful, here's the key thing. This is it. Just implement it. Just implement. Right? Value add. I see you, Karen. God bless you. So with that said, God bless you all. I'll see you on the next video. And for all the students, we'll see you I'll probably see you maybe tomorrow. But if not, I'll be chatting with you guys. Oh, Steven and Shantae, we'll hook up later. I just gotta settle down and take them out, and we'll connect later, because I know we talked about connecting about something, because there's something I want to share with you guys. So God bless you, and I'll talk to you.